Hello everyone. In today's video we will be discussing about the isolated muscle paralysis of the third nerve. We all are aware that the third nerve or the oculomotor nerve supplies its innervation to multiple ocular muscles. It could be intraocular as well as extraocular muscles. So in this video we'll be discussing that what happens when only one particular segment of that nerve is affected, leading to an isolated muscle, that is only one muscle among them is getting paralyzed. So let's start with the video. So muscle innervated by your third nerve and extraocular muscles which we are purely talking about are your medial rectus, inferior oblique and your superior rectus. So these are the muscles which are getting the innervation by third nerve as an extraocular muscle. So let's start with the So talking about medial rectus paralysis or MR paralysis. So this is what happens in MR paralysis when you ask the patient. So in this, what is happening, the patient's left eye is the one which is affected. So when you ask the patient to look on the left side, the left eye is using the lateral rectus and the right eye is using medial rectus. So there is no particular deviation. Even in primary gaze there is no such deviation. But the moment you ask the patient to look onto the right side, the patient's left eye cannot use the medial rectus because of paralysis, and there is a complete amount of deviation which is obvious. In this patient, if you see again, which is given in different versions, so in primary case there is a very minimal amount of deviation which is seen. So again here what has happened, the patient has a right eye which is affected. So when you ask the patient to look onto the left side, the patient's eye is not at all adducting. So if you see the complete left side, there is no adduction at all, whereas in your right gaze all the movements are normal for this patient. So this is how you see a patient of your medial rectus paralysis. So this is a particular example of your diplopia charting in a patient with the medial rectus paralysis. So this is the left side and this is the right side. So a patient will have with a left MR palsy. If you see, the moment I ask the patient to look onto the right side, the amount of deviation will increase. Why? Because the left eye will not able to come inside. That is basically the left eye cannot come or act onto the right. That is the MR of the left eye is not at all functioning, and because of that the amount of deviation starts increasing. So this is how you generally see in a patient with left MR palsy. So treatment wise, if we say, the treatment remains quite as similar to other cases. So either you have to treat the cause, that what exactly the cause is happening, is it neurogenic or other things, so the treatment of the cause, and conservative measures which can be taken to reduce the amount of diplopia. Prisms can be given, so Fresnel press on prism with base in can be given to such patients. So base in prisms are generally given to such patients, or either you can patch the eye with the help of a duct tape or either a contact lens, or either you can use a resect procedure in terms of a surgical treatment. So what you do is you do a tightening of the medial rectus or loosening of the lateral rectus of the affected eye to keep the eye into a primary position. Coming on to the next type, which is your inferior rectus paralysis. So now again this is also an isolated muscle supplied by your third nerve. So in inferior rectus, the primary function of your inferior rectus is depression. So the eye which is affected will be always into a state of hypertropia, and if you see here in this case, the patient's right eye is affected. So in primary position only it is into a state of hypertropia. So whenever you ask the patient to look in up gaze, the superior rectus will start overacting, leading to an upshoot of the eye further up. So upwards, if you see, there will be a deviation, and when you ask the patient to look in the down gaze, there will be no depression into that eye. The patient will not be able to look down properly. And when you ask the patient to abduct the eye, that is take it away from the nasal side, the upshoot will always increase, because here the inferior rectus and superior rectus are the one which are acting. So you will see more deviation. So these are the simple example of a patient with the right inferior rectus paralysis. So clinical feature, there will be a pseudotosis which is present. So pseudotosis is nothing but because of the hypertropia present in that eye, the eye will show it as if it is having pseudotosis. Widening of the palpebral fissure is generally seen whenever you ask the patient to look in the downward gaze. Abnormal head posture, so what will happen, because the patient is having hypertropia, the chin will be down, so the patient will have a chin down appearance to reduce the amount of diplopia. And there will be ocular movements, so if you will see, there will be overshooting or upshoot of an eye in elevation, and the patient won't be able to depress the eye in downward gaze, whereas when the affected eye will abduct, the elevation will be much more when compared to your adduction. So these are your clinical features. So Hess chart screening, when you will see, so in Hess chart, obviously you can see when the patient's right eye which is affected, it shows underaction of inferior rectus and overaction of the superior rectus. Vice versa, you can see the yoke muscle of that particular thing, that is your superior oblique, starts overacting, whereas your inferior oblique will start underacting. So this is how generally a Hess chart screen of a patient with inferior rectus paralysis is seen. So diplopia charting, again, as I said, so up gaze there will be minimal diplopia, as one eye is already into hypertropia, the other eye can follow, whereas whenever the patient will be asked to look downwards, the patient will have increased amount of deviation, so more into the state of abduction. So when you ask the patient to abduct with the affected eye, so that will give him more amount of diplopia when compared to your adduction, which is having a lesser amount of diplopia. Again, treatment is same as we discussed earlier. You can give here press on prism, so now the direction of the prism will be base down because it is a hypertropia, or else you can give a patch, or you can do a recess resect surgery. So in recess resect surgery, here the inferior rectus is paralyzed, so you can do either a tightening of inferior rectus or loosening of the superior rectus muscle. The next paralysis is your superior rectus paralysis. So when we say the superior rectus paralysis, it is basically the eye is into a state of hypertropia. So this is a patient with a superior rectus paralysis of the right eye. So if you see in the primary position itself, there is a very small pseudotosis which is very easily visible, and when we ask the patient to look up, the affected eye doesn't goes up, but when we ask the patient to look down, both the eyes are going very easily down. And here when you ask the patient to adduct and abduct, you can see the amount of deviation is more when it is abducting, it goes more into a state of hypertropia compared to the other eye, whereas into your adduction state, the amount of deviation, that is hypertropia, is very less. So this is how we generally see a patient with superior rectus palsy. So if you see here, the pseudotosis will very simply go away the moment you cover the eye. So this is one of the simplest way you can find out if there is a true ptosis or a pseudotosis, because of the um, squint which is present. So the moment you will cover the fixating eye, the other eye which is affected eye will open up and the pseudotosis will go away. So this is the amount of deviation which is generally seen. The more deviation is seen in up gaze compared to down gaze, because here the patient is unable to lift his eye up when compared to the other eye. So there is more deviation in the up gaze, and in down gaze there is almost a single vision because the other muscles are still functioning. So abnormal head posture, which is commonly seen, the patient will be having a chin raised, because what has happened that the patient cannot take the eye up. So already the eye is into hypo state, that is basically in the downward direction. So when the patient takes the chin up, both the eyes come in down direction, that is because of the doll's head phenomenon, and the patient can easily appreciate a single vision. So patient with superior rectus palsy generally comes with a chin raised abnormal head posture. Again, treatment here, what you can do is you can give Fresnel prism or either patch the eye. So here the direction of your base would be base up, because here the direction of your squint is down, so the base is always opposite to the direction. So you can give a base up prism to the patient, or either you do a resect surgery where there is either tightening of the superior rectus or loosening of the inferior rectus. The last isolated muscle of the all four is inferior oblique paralysis. So palsy is one which is very rarely seen as a isolated muscle. So let's see what clinical attributes are shown. So this is a patient with your inferior oblique palsy. So as we all know, inferior oblique is the one which is responsible for your elevation, because it is an elevator muscle, inferior oblique. So here the patient is having the left eye which is affected. So even in the primary position, the left eye doesn't go up and the other eye is overacting, because of which there is a hypertropia present. So here what happens, that when you ask the patient to look up, the other eye is overacting and this eye is not at all going into a state of up or the elevation. Rather, when you ask the patient to adduct and abduct, if you see, the amount of deviation in that eye is reduced when the patient is abducting, but when you ask the patient to abduct, the eye is going into again a hypostate, which shows that it is clearly the oblique muscle which is affected. So this is a patient with inferior oblique paralysis. Also, when you ask the patient to tilt the head in one tilt, the patient is having a higher hypertropia, suggesting that it is one muscle which is getting paralyzed, and which is the inferior oblique muscle. So this is how inferior oblique is generally seen. What happens, because the eyes cannot go into a state of elevation, the deviation is more in the up gaze compared to the down gaze. So when the patient looks up and right, up and left and up, so completely there will be more amount of deviation in the up gaze compared to your primary gaze. So even in primary gaze, what happens, when the patient is adducting, the amount of deviation is more, but when he abducts, the amount of deviation is less, though there is a cyclovertical squint also present because of your IO muscle, which is also an extorter muscle. So there will be an intorsion present in such cases. So generally such patients will have your chin up. So because the eye cannot elevate, so what will happen, you will have a slightly chin raised so that the patient can have a lesser amount of diplopia. So the moment the patient will take the chin up, the unaffected eye will also come down because of the doll's head phenomenon, and automatically the patient can reduce the amount of diplopia. So when you do a fundoscopy, you can easily appreciate the amount of torsional deviation which is present, and the eye will be into an intorted state. So this is a patient whose right eye has been done with a fundoscopy. So if you see, actually the fovea should be somewhere here, but because of the intorsion which is present, what has happened, that the eye is went into an intorsion, and you can easily appreciate that the eye is went into your intorsion with the amount of angle which is present here. Differential diagnosis for inferior oblique palsy is again very important, because it is also seen in some similar kind of attributes as seen in other. So you need to differentially diagnose it with Brown superior oblique sheath syndrome. So either it is a paralysis of your IO, or either it is a restriction of your superior oblique. That is very important to differentiate. So simply it can be differentiated that the involved eye is more depressed in adduction. So in Brown syndrome, the involved eye will be more depressed in adduction, whereas overaction of superior oblique is minimum or absent. So there will be no overaction of the superior oblique, whereas in your inferior oblique paralysis, there will be for sure a superior oblique overaction, and force reduction test will be positive in Brown syndrome, whereas it will be not positive into your inferior oblique palsy. So when you do an inferior oblique palsy, the globe will freely move all over the place, whereas it will be positive in case of Brown syndrome. You will find out a restriction. When you try to move the globe, you will find out that there is a restriction which is not allowing the globe to move freely. So treatment wise, there is one treatment which is generally done. So superior oblique tenotomy, which can be done, that is loosening or weakening procedure of the superior oblique, which is the antagonist of your inferior oblique. So what you do is you do some cuts over your inferior oblique, superior oblique, so as to loosen the muscle and keep the eye into a primary position and decrease the amount of diplopia in primary gaze. Thank you everyone. I hope you liked this video and it helped you to understand the isolated muscle paralysis supplied by the third nerve. And please subscribe our channel, and we will be back with you with more videos on optometry and binocular vision. Thank you for your patient listening, and goodbye.